The aroma of roasted groundnuts clung to Grace like a second skin, a familiar comfort amidst the bustling city of Lagos Market. Each crackle and pop in her small charcoal brazier was a testament to her tireless efforts, a symphony of survival that had played out since she was just 14. Grace lost her parents at a younger age and left with the role of taking care for her younger brother, a responsibility shouldered with a quiet strength that belied her years. Her heart, though weathered by hardship, remained remarkably tender, as she was left to make decisions that guided her actions. One afternoon, amidst the throngs of traders, passerbys and shoppers, Grace noticed an elderly woman standing near a stall, her brow furrowed with confusion, her gaze darting about as if searching for a lost treasure. An instinct to help stirred within Grace. Approaching cautiously, she inquired in gentle language, "Mama, are you looking for something? Are you lost?" The old woman turned, her eyes, clouded with worry, lighting up slightly at Grace's kind voice. "Ah, my dear," she sighed, her voice trembling slightly. "I seem to have misplaced something important, and now, I can't even seem to find my way." Grace's heart went out to her. For the next hour, she patiently assisted the woman in her search, weaving through the crowded aisles, retracing the old woman's steps. Despite their efforts, the lost item remained elusive. As dusk began to paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, Grace, mindful of the woman's distress in the fading light, suggested, "Mama, let me help you find where to get a taxi. It's getting late." The old woman nodded gratefully, her shoulders slumping with exhaustion. Grace guided her through the labyrinthine market, her small hand gently supporting the elder's arm. Reaching the edge of the bustling marketplace, where taxis lined the street, Grace reached into the small pouch tied around her waist. It held the meager earnings from her day's labor, each cent a hard-won victory. She pressed a few notes into the old woman's hand. "Mama, please take this for your transport," she offered with a sincere smile. The old woman looked at the money, then back at Grace, her eyes filled with a warmth that transcended their brief acquaintance. She gently pushed the money back. "No, my child, your kindness in helping me is worth more than any money. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart," Grace insisted, her own experience of hardship making her acutely aware of the woman's potential predicament. After a few moments of gentle persuasion, the old woman relented, accepting a small portion of the offered money with a grateful nod. Grace watched as the old woman settled into a taxi, offering a final heartfelt wave before turning back towards the market, the image of the woman's grateful smile imprinted on her mind. Unbeknownst to Grace, a sleek, black Mercedes-Benz had pulled up discreetly a short distance away. The old woman, her demeanor shifting subtly, stepped out of the taxi and into the luxurious vehicle. The tinted windows glided up, and the car silently glided away, leaving Grace utterly unaware of the silent observer and the unexpected turn her simple act of kindness had taken. Meanwhile, in the towering edifice of Ed Associates, James, a name whispered with respect and a hint of awe in the city's business circles, was a man consumed by his empire. At 35, he commanded a business conglomerate that spanned industries, his days a relentless cycle of high-stakes meetings, million-dollar deals, and strategic decisions. He was a titan in his world, a master of finance and negotiation. Yet, outside the boardroom, a void persisted. Love and companionship had been casualties of his relentless pursuit of success. His mother, Nendia, a woman of grace and quiet strength, watched her son's solitary existence with a growing sadness. She longed to see him share his life, to find the joy and comfort of a loving partner. Her gentle prodding about finding a wife was often met with a weary smile and a promise of, "When things slow down, Mama." But things never seemed to slow down for James. Driven by his mother's unspoken yearning and a flicker of his own buried desire for connection, James reluctantly ventured into the world of online dating. He envisioned it as an efficient solution, a way to compartmentalize his search for a partner, much like he approached his business ventures. His first date was an unmitigated disaster. The woman, a polished socialite, spoke of art collections and European vacations, her interests and values worlds away from James's grounded, albeit work-centric, existence. Their conversation felt forced, punctuated by awkward silences and a profound lack of connection. The second date was an anticlimactic no-show. James sat at the upscale restaurant, the minutes ticking by, a growing sense of frustration mingling with a touch of loneliness. He paid for his untouched drink and left, the city lights reflecting his disappointment. The third date proved to be an exercise in thinly veiled avarice. His companion, a striking woman with sharp eyes, spent the evening subtly probing his wealth and status, her interest in him seemingly contingent on his bank balance. The charade was transparent and left a bitter taste in James's mouth. After the fourth consecutive dating disappointment, another no-show, James found himself sitting alone at a quiet corner table in a dimly lit restaurant. The half-empty glass of wine beside him mirrored the emptiness he felt. He decided to forego the chauffeur and walk home, the cool night air a welcome contrast to the simmering frustration within him. As he walked, the city noises gradually faded, replaced by a quiet hum. He found himself drawn to a simple wooden bench beneath the soft glow of a street lamp, a momentary oasis of calm. He sank onto it, the day's exhaustion weighing heavily on him. A few moments later, a soft rustling sound broke the silence. At the far end of the bench, a young woman sat hunched over, her shoulders slumped with fatigue. The faint scent of roasted groundnuts wafted in the air. It was Grace, the groundnut seller, her day's work finally done, seeking a brief respite before the long walk home. She glanced at the man at the other end of the bench, noticing his weary posture and the air of quiet dejection that surrounded him. Despite her own exhaustion, a spark of her inherent kindness flickered. She hesitated for a moment, then, in a soft voice, asked, "Are you all right, sir? You look tired." James looked up, surprised by the gentle inquiry. He saw a young woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, her face bearing the marks of hard work. He managed a weak smile in return. "Just a long day," he replied, the words feeling inadequate to describe the emotional toll of his recent experiences. Grace, sensing his deeper wariness, decided to offer a bit of light-heartedness. She recounted a funny incident from her day at the market, her voice animated and her gestures expressive. James found himself chuckling, a genuine laugh that had been absent for days. She told another joke, and then another, her simple humour a balm to his jaded spirit. Time seemed to melt away as they talked, Grace sharing snippets of her life with an unassuming honesty, James finding a surprising comfort in her unpretentious company. But then, his phone rang, the insistent tone jarring the peaceful interlude. It was a business associate with an urgent matter. Reluctantly, James stood up. The call demanded his immediate attention. He looked down at Grace, a genuine smile gracing his lips. He said, the words carrying a sincerity that surprised even himself. You've cheered me up." He wanted to linger, to prolong this unexpected moment of connection, but duty called. "I have to go now. Good night." "Good night, sir," Grace replied, watching as he walked away, a sense of quiet warmth lingering in the cool night air. The next day, the sterile environment of James's office was infused with the familiar warmth of his mother's presence. Nendia had decided to pay him a visit, her concern for his well-being evident in her every gesture. Over a quiet lunch, she gently inquired about his foray into the world of dating. James recounted his string of disappointing encounters, his voice laced with a weariness that went beyond mere fatigue. "None of them felt real, Mama. It was either a performance or a transaction." Nindia listened patiently, her days filled with understanding. Then, a soft smile touched her lips. "You know, on my way here the other day, I got a little lost in the market. A very kind young woman helped me. She was so selfless, so caring. I really hope I get to see her again someday. She had such a good heart." James, preoccupied with an impending merger, offered a perfunctory nod, his mind already racing back to spreadsheets and projections. He didn't register the significance of his mother's words, the subtle thread of destiny she had unknowingly introduced. A week later, a chance encounter brought James face to face with his past. Stacy, his ex-girlfriend, whom he hadn't seen in over 6 years, walked into the lobby of his office building. They had parted ways after a heated argument, Stacy leaving the country shortly thereafter to pursue opportunities abroad. The initial awkwardness of their reunion soon gave way to a tentative rekindling of their old connection. Stacy began to frequent his office, their evenings often ending in late dinners and shared memories. James found a superficial comfort in her familiar presence, a distraction from the pressures of his work and the recent dating debacles. Stacy was glamorous, sophisticated, and knew his world. However, beneath the polished veneer, Stacy's personality harbored a sharp edge. She was often dismissive and rude to the people around James, treating his employees with a condescending air, barking orders and making unreasonable demands. Nendia, who observed Stacy's behavior during her visits to her son's office, grew increasingly uneasy. Stacy displayed a blatant lack of respect for everyone, from the office staff to the security guards. One afternoon, Nendia arrived at Ed Associates hoping to surprise James. As she stepped out of the elevator, she saw Stacy standing near James's office, a spilled glass of water at her feet. Stacy, without even looking up, mistook Nendia for a cleaning lady.
"Hey, you, cleaner!"
Stacy snapped, pointing at the spilled water. "Get a mop and bucket and clean this up right now. Honestly, some people are so clumsy." Nendia stared at her in disbelief, her initial surprise quickly turning to indignation. "I beg your pardon," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I am not a cleaner." Stacy scoffed, finally looking up and offering a dismissive glance.
"Oh, so you're just gonna stand there? Well, someone needs to clean this mess. Get to it."
Before Nendia could respond, Stacy turned away, resuming a phone call. 2 hours later, James emerged from a lengthy board meeting to find his mother sitting in his office, her expression troubled, Stacy perched on the edge of a chair, feigning innocence. As James entered, Stacy rushed to his side, her voice dripping with false indignation.
"James, this old woman just barged in here and started insulting me. I have no idea who she is."
James looked from Stacy to his mother, a knot of confusion tightening in his stomach. "Stacy," he said slowly. "This is my mother, Nendia." The color drained from Stacy's face. The shock was palpable. She stammered an insincere apology, her carefully constructed facade momentarily crumbling. Nendia, however, saw through the pretense. The genuine disdain Stacy had displayed earlier spoke volumes about her true character. After Stacy eventually left, Nendia sat down with her son, her voice filled with gentle but firm conviction. "James, that woman, she is not right for you. I saw how she treated me, how she treats your staff. There is no respect, no kindness. You deserve someone who sees the good in people, someone with a good heart." James, unaccustomed to such direct advice and still somewhat swayed by Stacy's superficial charm, simply replied, "I'll think about it, Mama." Media, sensing his reluctance, decided to take a stroll to clear her head. James instructed his driver to take her wherever she wished. As the Mercedes glided through the city, Media found herself drawn back to the bustling market, the vibrant energy, a stark contrast to the sterile atmosphere of her son's office. She asked the driver to drop her off near the market entrance, instructing him to wait a short distance away. She wandered through the familiar chaos, her eyes scanning the faces, half hoping, half doubting she would ever find the kind young woman who had helped her. But the market was a sprawling maze, and soon, disorientation set in once again. The familiar stalls and pathways began to blur, and Nendia realized, with a growing sense of frustration, that she was lost. Exhausted and disheartened, she sank onto a wooden bench near a row of yam sellers, the noise of the market swirling around her. She hoped her driver would somehow find her, but the chances seemed slim. Just then, a familiar scent wafted towards her, the warm, nutty aroma of roasted groundnuts. Grace, her small tray balanced on her head, was weaving her way through the crowd. Her eyes widened in recognition as she spotted the elderly woman sitting on the bench.
Mama!
Grace exclaimed, her face lighting up. "It's you! I saw you weeks ago when you were lost." Mendia's face broke into a relieved smile. "My dear girl, it's so good to see you again. I seem to have a knack for getting lost in this market." Grace sat beside her, her initial worry about the old woman's presence in the market quickly turning to concern. As they talked, Nenidia confided that she had indeed lost her way again, and had no idea how to get back to her son. Without hesitation, Grace offered her assistance. Despite the late hour and the long walk home that awaited her, she insisted on taking Nenidia to her own small apartment, a familiar haven amidst the bustling city. Nindii was struck by the stark simplicity of Grace's living situation. A single room, sparsely furnished, yet filled with a palpable warmth, and the quiet devotion Grace showed towards her younger brother, who greeted their unexpected guest with shy curiosity. Despite her own struggles, Grace welcomed Nindii with genuine hospitality, offering her the only mat to sit on and sharing her meager evening meal. That night, as they lay side by side on the mat, Nindii, her curiosity piqued by Grace's resilience, gently inquired about her life. Grace recounted her story with a quiet dignity, the pain of her parents' loss still evident, but overshadowed by her unwavering determination to provide for her brother. She explained how she had to forgo further education to work, how hawking groundnuts was the only viable option she had found. Nendia listened, deeply moved by the young woman's strength and selflessness. The next morning, Grace insisted on taking Nendia back to the market to retrace her steps, hoping to find a familiar landmark. After some searching, Nendia finally recognized a particular stall, and the way back to the main road became clear. She bid a heartfelt farewell to Grace, her gratitude immeasurable. Reaching the edge of the street, Nendia hailed a taxi, her mind already formulating a plan. As the taxi pulled up to Ed Associates, she saw a flurry of police activity near the entrance. James rushed out, his face etched with worry.
Mama, where have you been? We were so worried.
Mendia smiled serenely. "I'm fine, my son. Perfectly fine. In fact," she added, her eyes twinkling, "I think I've found the woman for you." James, still reeling from the anxiety of his mother's disappearance, barely registered her words. He was simply relieved to have her back safe. Meanwhile, Grace, remembering a casual remark Nendia had made about a company offering good employment opportunities, decided to take a leap of faith. Despite her lack of formal education, she had diligently attended part-time studies, acquiring valuable knowledge and skills. She painstakingly prepared a simple CV and, a few days later, presented herself at the imposing Ed Associates building. As she walked into the gleaming reception area, her heart pounded with a mixture of hope and trepidation. During the interview, the CEO himself walked in. James looked up, and a wave of surprise washed over him. He recognized her instantly, the kind groundnut seller from the park bench. Grace, equally astonished, recognized the tired man she had cheered up that night. A warm exchange of pleasantries followed, a shared smile of unexpected recognition, bridging the gap between their vastly different worlds. Despite her unconventional background, James, impressed by her genuine character and the quiet determination that shone in her eyes, offered Grace a job as a cleaner, a starting point in his sprawling company. Grace threw herself into her work with her characteristic diligence. After her cleaning duties during the day, she would return to the market to fry her groundnuts, juggling two demanding jobs to make ends meet for herself and her brother. Over time, James couldn't help but notice Grace's unwavering work ethic and her cheerful disposition. Her infectious humor and genuine kindness endeared her to the other employees. He found himself drawn to her quiet strength and the refreshing simplicity of her perspective. Their paths began to cross more frequently, casual conversations blossoming into more meaningful exchanges. James found himself seeking out her company, a sense of ease and genuine connection he hadn't experienced in a long time. Stacy, who still frequently comes to James's office, noticed the subtle shift in his demeanor and the growing warmth in his interactions with Grace. Jealousy began to simmer beneath her polished exterior. She resolved to undermine Grace, to turn James and his colleagues against her. One afternoon, knowing James was in a crucial meeting, Stacy slipped into his office. Her eyes landed on an important document lying on his desk. A malicious idea sparked in her mind. She carefully took the document and hid it inside a bucket in the cleaning equipment Grace used, which was stored in a hallway closet. Later, when James emerged from his meeting and frantically searched for the missing papers, Stacy feigned concern. "Oh, James, I think I saw Grace go into your office earlier. She might have taken something. I'm not sure, but she was definitely in there." Just then, an employee walking by the hallway closet noticed a document sticking out of a cleaning bucket. She retrieved it and brought it to James, recounting Stacy's words about seeing Grace in his office. A wave of disappointment washed over James, a seed of doubt planted despite his growing admiration for Grace. As Grace came upstairs after a quick errand, James confronted her, his voice tinged with a sadness that he did not believe. "Grace," he began, his gaze searching hers, "please tell me you didn't take my document." Confusion clouded Grace's features. "Sir, take what document? I haven't been in your office today, except to clean it this morning." Before James could process her denial, Stacy interjected, her voice sharp and accusatory. "Don't even try to lie! I saw you! You're probably trying to steal company secrets or something." The accusation stung Grace, her cheeks flushing with indignation.
That's not true. I would never do such a thing.
Just as the argument escalated, a familiar voice cut through the tension.
Enough!
Medea stood at the entrance of the office, her eyes fixed on Stacy, her expression a mixture of disappointment and quiet fury. "I saw everything, James." Stacy's face paled. She hadn't realized that Mrs. Nindia had been in the vicinity, waiting to speak with her son, hidden from view by a large potted plant near the corner. "Stacy," Nindia continued, her voice steady, "I saw you go into James's office while he was in his meeting. I saw you take that document and hide it in the cleaning bucket. You did it to frame this innocent girl, hoping she would be fired." The truth hung heavy in the air. James stared at Stacy, the realization of her deceit washing over him like a cold wave. The memory of her rudeness towards his mother, her condescending attitude towards his staff, it all clicked into place. The polished facade had finally shattered, revealing the ugliness beneath. "Stacy," James said, his voice low and firm, "leave. Leave my office, and don't come back ever again." Stacy, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her, stammered a weak denial, but the weight of Nindia's eyewitness account was irrefutable. Defeated and exposed, she gathered her belongings and swept out of the office, her parting glare filled with resentment. Grace stood bewildered, trying to piece together the events. She glanced at the elderly woman, a flicker of recognition dawning in her eyes. Where had she seen her before? James, equally confused, looked at his mother.
Mama, how do you know Grace?
Menaiah smiled gently at both of them. "James, this is the kind young woman I told you about, the one who helped me when I got lost in the market. Grace, this is my son, James, the CEO of this company." Grace's jaw dropped in astonishment. The kind old woman she had helped, the weary man on the park bench, they were mother and son, pillars of a world she could scarcely imagine. The realization that her simple act of kindness had unknowingly connected her to such a powerful figure left her speechless. As the initial shock subsided, James looked at Grace with newfound appreciation. Her inherent goodness, her unwavering integrity, had been starkly contrasted against Stacy's manipulative behavior. The fondness he had begun to feel for her deepened into something more profound. Nindia, watching the unfolding drama, felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She had recognized the genuine goodness in Grace, the very qualities she longed to see in her son's partner. Her seemingly accidental encounters in the market had, perhaps, been guided by a mother's intuition and a subtle desire to steer her son towards a brighter future. In the weeks that followed, James found himself increasingly drawn to Grace. He admired her resilience, her unwavering optimism despite her hardships, and the genuine warmth she exuded. Their conversations became longer, more personal, bridging the gap between their different backgrounds. He learned about her dreams for her brother, her quiet determination to build a better life for them both. He started finding excuses to be near her, a stolen moment in the hallway, a brief chat in the office kitchen. He realized that the superficial glamour he had once been drawn to paled in comparison to the genuine connection he felt with Grace. And Grace, in turn, found herself looking forward to their interactions. Beneath James's powerful exterior, she saw a kind and thoughtful man, someone who valued her for who she was, not for her status or connections. A quiet affection began to blossom in her heart. Menidia watched their burgeoning relationship with joy. Her plan, subtly orchestrated by a mother's love, had unfolded in a way she could only have hoped for. She knew that Grace's good heart was exactly what her son needed, a grounding force in his often turbulent world. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside James's office window, he looked at Grace, his eyes filled with a sincerity that mirrored her own. "Grace," he began, his voice soft, "from the moment I met you on that bench, there was something different. Your kindness that night, and everything I've learned about you since. You are an extraordinary woman." He reached for her hand, his touch gentle, but firm. "I know our worlds are different, but I can't deny how I feel. Grace, I'm falling in love with you." A radiant smile bloomed on Grace's face, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. "James," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion, I think I'm falling in love with you too." And so, amidst the towering skyscrapers and the bustling market streets of Lagos, a love story blossomed, born from a chance encounter, nurtured by kindness, and destined to bridge two vastly different worlds. The hard-working groundnut seller and the powerful CEO, brought together by fate and a mother's loving intervention, embarked on a journey together, their hearts united by a connection that transcended status and circumstance, a testament to the enduring power of a good heart. Dear viewers, what do you think about this story? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and share it with friends. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks, and see you in the next video. Bye.